Hey guys, Travis here with DFSkarma.com with another weekly podcast for our fantasy partners over at Jock Market. If you have not signed up yet, go to jockmarket.online, use promo code KARMA, get that $50 deposit bonus. As we had last week, we are returning the GOAT of all GOATs for Jock Market, TRex, which if you saw the previous one, he is hiding his identity because, like I said before, this man makes so much money, he doesn't want his relatives knowing about it. So he's going by TRex for the foreseeable future. We also have Bales joining us on this one here, where we're going to be focusing on Week 6 main slate on Sunday. Now, if you guys are not in the Discord chat for NFL Jock Market, make sure you go there. Just go to dfskarma.com/chat. But yours truly, myself, had an insane record-breaking night on Thursday Night Football. I only bought in the cash market shares of Lenny Fournette, and I came out with a profit, not a win, a total profit of over $1,600, which is now, as of Thursday night, the new Carb Nation record. So if you guys want to beat that, or if you do beat it, definitely share the screenshots on Twitter and tag the home account at DFS_Karma. As you remember the previous episode we had last Saturday, we started off with focusing on more strategy things, and then we went into Week 5 specific stuff. We're going to do something similar to that as well. We're going to focus on things you need to know, and then we'll touch on Bales and T-Rex's favorite plays for Week 6. But let's go ahead and start things off with the need-to-know information about this to help you guys get better and better on understanding this platform and how to take advantage of it. T-Rex, I'll start with you. You mentioned earlier when we were talking before we started recording about the how important or how to analyze the leaderboards, I guess you should say. So go ahead and touch on that here a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, first, I think I should have you on my show, given your finish of this last week. My God. Yeah, so we were talking about the leaderboard. I think there's a lot of confusion on what the leaderboard shows and what the leaderboard is actually taking into account. I mean, the first is that the leaderboard, as you mentioned, Travis, is profit. It's not revenue. It's not your balance. It is profit. And so you can't buy your way onto that leaderboard. It's really recognizing your actual profit over your costs of what you purchase the players for. But until the game closes, it's based on these live prices. And live prices are those numbers in the big black box on the right side of every player. And those are constantly changing, right? There's an algorithm that Jock Market uses based on how much time they have left in the game and a bunch of other stuff that I'm sure they use. But it's very variable. It's constantly moving. And so that's why you can see people on the leaderboard seemingly move hundreds, if not thousands of dollars up and down, because the profit is based on that live price. And that live price, while I think a decent metric, is far from perfect. And so one of the things I'll tell people that look for tips is, don't use that number to determine, somebody's offering a player lower than that live price, it must be a deal. That's not necessarily always true. You kind of have to use your own analysis of where that player stands in the leaderboard, what they have left in the game, what's the game script, to get a better idea of whether it's a good idea to buy or sell. But the leaderboard is a fun thing to look at, but really until the game closes, it doesn't provide a ton of value.
And something else I was going to add on to that that Bales and I have talked about on our few live streams we've had leading up to these new Saturday recordings is the goal of Jock Market, which I don't know if T-Rex would disagree just based on his constant success, but the goal of Jock Market is not to be, in terms of, you're not competing against anybody else in the leaderboard, is how we're viewing it, how we're interpreting it to others. If you're in first place, that doesn't mean you get a massive payout, like on a standard leaderboard for DraftKings. If you finish in 100th place, but you have a profit that you are proud of, whether it's $20 profit, $100 profit, $500 profit, whatever it is, your placement in the leaderboard is not determining your success, even though technically it's ranked by overall success on the slate compared to everyone else. But it is not what you're vying for. You're not vying for first place. You're just vying for profit over and over and over again to consistently build that bankroll up and consistently have that success and that income. But I don't actually. Before I pass off to Bales, I'll say if T-Rex had any agreement or disagreement with that on his end.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, I certainly want to be as high up on the leaderboard as possible, but yeah. I think sometimes if you go for broke, right, like I want to be number one, you're right. I mean, I've seen plenty of leaderboards, especially once you start watching things like NHL or NBA, you'll see leaderboards where first place is $112, right? So, I mean, that's a good return, but it's not like an NFL where your top returns can be thousands of dollars. And that's also to say the leaderboard's only so big. I think if there are more than 50 people that have profit, it only shows the top 50. And so you could still make 50 or $100, and for whatever reason, you're just not on the leaderboard. So, I mean, I think you're right, Travis. It's really a pride thing, as opposed to an actual, success marker. You want to strive to be on it, but you certainly can grind out profits and not be on that leaderboard and still do fairly well.
I was hoping you were going to say something like, "Nah, screw that idea. First place or the worst place, man."
Well, that's
if you're not first, you're last.
Right.
All right, pass things off to Bales. Something that Bales and I were talking about before the recording as well is we've seen in our Discord. So what Bales and I have done, especially when we first started getting on this and playing in the NFL preseason free rolls, we're constantly saying, like, listen, like, here's the strategy for the free rolls. Go all in on one player with the quote-unquote fake money that give you the $250 of fake money, and that's how you win the free rolls. And we're constantly seeing people, of course, download the app, which is great, be in the free rolls, which is great. But there seems to be, we want to touch this on this as well before we get to our week 6 plays, and Bales can continue on with this, is there seems to be a slight disconnect on when we're actually giving plays. We're not giving plays for, the free roll. The free roll is your own thing. Just go all in on a player. If they're the number one ROI, then you take down the free roll, the end. And that's I mean, we just had somebody last night, I think it was Nate Dogg in our Discord. I'm pretty sure it was him. He just won his second or third NHL free roll, doing the same exact thing, same concept. It doesn't matter what the sport is. But when we're doing plays, whether it's articles you see Bales put out, or whether it's the Jock Market cheat sheet or the table that we put out, or these actual podcasts or something inside the Discord, these are plays for the cash market. There are two different things. There's a free roll, and then there's the cash market, which I'll show you real quick before Bales touches on that a little bit more here. So you see this is actually a screen share of my phone here. The top one, or the top row you see here that I'm swiping left and right, these are the contests that I'm already in that are either already over with or waiting to start. So if you have nothing here, that means you haven't entered anything. Now, the second row where it says featured events, these are the cash markets. These are where you're actually buying shares of players. So, let's just say Tom Brady, for example, if he's at $15 a share, then I'm actually spending $15 in my bankroll to get that player, as opposed to spending, $15 in the out of my 250 free chips for the free roll. So anything in the second row here, these are cash markets. And then, of course, the free-to-play events in the third row, these are the free rolls that can kind of get your feet wet. But do not solely play the free rolls, because you do have to place relatively high out of the entire field to get any money. So you consistently could be playing free rolls over and over and over again and not make any money, depending on how unsuccessful you are. But you can make money every single time in the cash market if you just get one share of one player and they finish at a payout of even a penny higher than that. Boom, you win. In that concept. So, Bales, is there anything else? I feel like I actually probably explained that pretty well. So, pass it over to you. I'd be like, hey, well, all right, that's kind of what I was going to say. Anything else you want to tap on or add on to that?
Yeah, I mean, you basically outlined everything. That was hilarious. You're like, we're going to Bales, but this. And I was like, all right, he just said everything I was going to say, so we're set. I guess the best way to put it, because obviously we are a DFS and sports betting company, and that's what a lot of the mindsets are. When you want to look at it in terms of that, the free roll to me is more of like a tournament in DFS, but to the point where you don't have the absurd upside. You just have the upside of what Jock Market is willing to give away for free. Whereas the cash market or the live market is more like cash games, the head-to-head 50-50, where you're kind of betting on more people, and the goal is just to cash, double up your money. And then if you win big, great. That's obviously what we're going for, but you're going for safety over kind of the upside. Whereas in the free market, you just want to go all in on the one player because you solely want the upside to come in first, because that's what you have to do to win the money. Another way to put it for any of our sports betting people is the free roll is like betting on a massive underdog or betting on a 5-6 leg parlay. The upside is there for what you're going to risk. The cash market is essentially betting on 5 spreads all individually. You may not have as much upside, which obviously you do in the live market, just because of the way that everything's played out because they can only give away so much free money. But in the live market, if you bet on, say you bet on 5 spreads on any given day, you can win 3 of them, lose 2 of them, and still profit. Whereas if you bet a 5 play, obviously if you lose any of the 5, you don't make any money on that.
Yeah, I feel like that was pretty. We started bringing up sports betting. I was like, how is this going to work out? But no, that actually makes a lot of sense on how to look at the difference. So yeah, so if you, like I said, just do the free market to get your feet wet with the platform to understand, okay, this is how I buy a player, this is how I sell a player, this is what happens if I don't don't sell a player after I buy them. So just getting the concept, that's what the free rolls are for. Once you get the concept, do not stay in the free rolls, because if you're getting the concept and you understand what to do, if you stay in the free rolls, you are just like Bill said, like if you're not playing the cash games, you're just playing the GPPs. And if you are ever in our chat room, when we find out that you're only playing GPPs, that is whenever we'll just throw out the red flags. Cash games is how you profit, and that cash market is the cash games, of the DraftKings and the FanDuel and whatnot. So all of that said, I hope you have absorbed that. Let's go now to our week 6 favorite plays. We'll start with on this one with TRex. So for this one, what play are you targeting and why for week 6 for the main slate?
Yeah, so main slate's your 120 player slate, so it's certainly one of the bigger ones. In these type of slates, it can be very tempting, I think, to go after your top 5 quarterbacks. Quarterbacks tend to do pretty well. But if they don't, then the downside is just massive. So I always like, kind of the unheralded wide receivers, running backs that have tremendous upside, that can, pick up 100 yards either in the air or on the ground and maybe a touchdown or 2. For me this week, that is Alex Collins, with Chris Carson put on IR, and Seattle obviously dealing with the Russell Wilson issue. I think they're really going to focus on the ground game against Pittsburgh that kind of has some of its own problems. And so I'm pretty high on Alex Collins. I think he might get inflated a little bit at the IPO given Chris Carson being put on IR, but I still think he's going to be somewhat depressed. So I'm going to be probably having a good amount of shares in Alex Collins this week.
Now, I saw this, so I'm in a lot of groups and following a lot of Twitter accounts and Facebook and everywhere, just trying to absorb as much information as possible. And I saw on Facebook this morning that someone said, of course, I take everything with a grain of salt because I don't trust anybody that's not our own staff with our own analytics and research. But I'm pretty sure someone said that Chris Carson's injury could be career-ending. Is that just like? Is this just this guy being dumb, or I know it's a neck-related thing, but I don't know if Bales or TRex, if either of you have heard anything about the severity of Chris Carson's injury.
I haven't heard anything like that. I actually read that they put him on IR and things hadn't gotten worse. They just wanted to give him some time to recover, and they needed, I think, to move a cornerback off of its own IR. But yeah, I mean, neck things as a running back, that's no joke.
Yeah, when it initially happened, I did hear some people saying that it could be career ending just because not of the injury, it would be more of a career ending mentality, I guess, for a lack of a better word. If Chris Carson didn't want to do or didn't want to hurt himself and like really inhibit his future, like I don't know if you guys remember Curtis Martin, I believe. Yeah. He said after he played in the NFL, he had a ton of knee issues and he can absolutely barely walk at this point. So I feel like it's kind of one of more of those situations where Chris Carson needs to decide whether he can deal with the pain and potentially a more severe neck injury, or if he wants to look out for his future.
That makes sense. Yeah, just the mentality of not wanting to, dive headfirst into a pile if you've already have that neck injury. So sticking with Bales, who is your target? So TRex is focused on Collins with the Chris Carson neck injury that we just touched on. Bales, who are you hitting in week 6?
I'll go with a cheap receiver and Mecole Hardman. Kansas City is more or less in a must-win position at this point in the season, and they get the ideal matchup against Washington, allowing almost 300 passing yards per game. Their adjusted yards per attempt is almost 9. They've given up the second most touchdowns and the second highest touchdown rate on the entire season. On top of that, they've given up the most air yards to opposing quarterbacks by almost 100, which is actually pretty ridiculous for only being 5 weeks through. And when you look at Hardman, obviously his ADOT isn't absurdly high. Tyreek Hill's the deep threat, But he is coming off 12 targets last week. Tyreek Hill is dealing with a quad injury, and it's not like McCole Hardman lost his speed. He still ran a 4.33 only a couple of years ago, and it wouldn't be overly shocking if Kansas City opted to have him try to take the top off of the defense, at least at some point in the game, to give Tyreek Hill a little bit of a break. So I feel like McCole Hardman is going to go more or less overlooked because obviously you have Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill in this game. But at the same time, he comes with quite a bit of upside, especially if he would happen to see double-digit targets again. I don't expect that to be the case. I also don't expect him to necessarily need that for the chance at more or less 100 yards and a touchdown.
So with the fact that there's an insane amount of players on the NFL Sunday main slate, I think what did T-Rex say, like 140 something, 120 players?
120. Yep.
So Bales, at 120, what do you think off the top of your head, if you haven't already playing this right now, do you think, of course, the market's going to fluctuate and you're going to have to change your stance on this when it's actually, right before lock. But as of right now, what do you think is the most or the highest IPO bid? Just what you've seen from the previous markets from other players around Hardman's projections that you think that you would go with on this, the max IPO.
Yeah, I think you can probably sit around $2.50, honestly. I don't expect him to get much more than that. So that's probably where or around where I would cap it, just because there is obviously volatility in taking essentially the number 3, potentially, I guess, number 4 option, depending on how they're going to game plan Darrell Williams into this. But I would assume the number 3 option behind Hill and Kelsey. But you see all the time especially with 120 players, these type of players like McCole Hardman. We watched it with Kadarius Toney, I think either last week or the week before. Their prices just don't really go up on the Sunday market, and you can get them relatively close to essentially the bottom of the barrel price tag. So I think setting it around 250, honestly, is probably where I would hold. And if for some reason he jumps a little bit higher than that, I would have to make a decision. But as of right now, I'd probably say $2.50.
And then finishing up the pod by going back to TRex on Collins, what do you think the max IPO range would be for him?
Yeah, probably like 388. I think he's going to suffer from a little inflation given the fact that Carson is out, ruled out, and the fact that Russell Wilson is injured. And so I think, any casual DFS user can say, well, the game script's going to be to run it. And so I think there's going to be a little bit there, but I just think that they don't have a ton of other options. I mean, I know that Geno can throw it a little bit, but you would think that they're probably going to focus on the run game. So, I would love it to be around $3, but I'm probably willing to pay up to about $4.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap up the Week 6 Jock Market podcast we have here. Once again, thank you, T-Rex, for joining us. The Jock Market GOAT, even though, who knows, maybe I'll start competing more for that title after Thursday. I'm all talking myself up, and then I'm never going to have a day like that on the app again. I'm like, yeah, look what I did, and then never again.
You made me mad now. Now I'm going to be mad.
This guy's going to have 10-figure profits every single night now. Travis, suck it. But yeah, so make sure you guys, if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel. We're going to be trying to do these every Saturday if possible, based on timing of everybody's schedule. But yeah, if you do not have the app, it is on Google Play, it's on the App Store for iOS, for iPhones and whatnot. Just go to jockmarket.online, download the app, and then use promo code Karma to get that $50 deposit bonus. If you are winning this Sunday or any of these slates they have here, and you want to post a screenshot on Twitter, please tag us. We'd love to see it at DFS_Karma. If you want to have more back-to-back insight or more tips or more explanations or anything helpful, you can either comment on this video or go to dfskarma.com/chat and go right to that NFL Jock Market channel we have there, and we'll definitely answer any questions you have. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll catch you next week. Good luck.